Welcome back. The markets at this point in time clearly indicating a shade of green. The highest point of the day has not been revisited, but we are talking about the first 10 minutes of trade. Let's wait and see. There could be selling at higher levels, but at this point in time, Greece and China have all been taken in the market stride, and even the poor IIP numbers, there's green on the screen. And among the bigger gainers have been Cain India, and then come mostly the defensives. You've got Sun Pharma, Asian Paints, HCL Tech, Cipla. Those are the next set of Lupin. So among the first 10 gainers, a large part of them are defensives for what it is worth. It's not that anyone is betting on the economy stocks just yet. But let's get a spin on how things are shaping up for the economy as well as for the corporate sector. Manish Gurwani, Senior Fund Manager at ICICI Prudential AMC, joins us as our market master. Good morning, Manish. Good to have you with us. First, the broad picture. The FIs have not really been biting, but you guys have been making up more than making up for it. You think we can trust that money to keep coming?
I think so, because from last 2 years, since the market bottomed out somewhere in September 2013, what we've been saying is that if we look at the opportunity set for the domestic investors, look at the major asset classes, real estate, gold, equities, fixed income. So our call has been that for the next few years, you will see a shift from physical assets to financial assets, both long-term bonds and equities. And I think this is a multi-year theme. I think will continue for quite some time, because honestly, we don't see any great returns being made in real estate, and maybe gold. Gold is difficult to value, but at least real estate, given where we are in terms of rental yields, in terms of affordability. So I think both from a growth perspective, where we think we're at the bottom of the GDP growth cycle, and the fact that if you look at asset allocation, where domestic investors are so heavily over-invested in physical assets, we think there is a very strong case to be made that this will go on for quite some time. So I do think it's going to be sticky.
But considering that you're saying that this is sticky, the flow of domestic funds into equities is not something that is going to stop anytime soon. As well, given that anyway globally central banks are printing money, continuing to print money, and if anything the Fed rate hike looks postponed, do you think that 8,000 level looks protected purely on liquidity reasons?
Well, I think that liquidity part, which many commentators argue about, it's much more nuanced than what is obvious, because if liquidity was the pure source, then commodities should have done well. Okay. So clearly there are some fundamentals also at play here rather than pure liquidity. Also, if you see, a lot of EM markets, at least in dollar terms, over the last 3-4 years have not done well. So this whole thing about liquidity driving everything up, I really don't buy that argument per se. Of course, it is an important part of the capital market puzzle, but I do think that it's also about fundamentals. It's about how India does. I don't think you can sit back and say, whatever we do, we'll get money. I don't think that works.
Okay. Manish, hi, morning. So by the end of this year, do you think we will be higher than where we are currently? And if yes, why?
Well, in stock markets, we all know it's very difficult to put targets. But as we've been saying, basically, if we take a 3-year horizon, we think this is going to be probably the best asset class for Indian households, as well as a very healthy asset class for foreigners. Because typically in a growth cycle, your earnings for the market per se can compound at 18, 20, 22%. And if at all the recovery pans out as it should, then if we get that earnings growth, then I don't see any reason why we will not get a very healthy compounding market.
Now, what is this earnings trajectory that you are factoring in? Because everyone has their trajectory.
So again, we're not that optimistic on this year, because again, this we've talked about that if you see parts of the market, let's say the global cyclical part, which is oil and gas, metals, and increasingly IT is also being clubbed into that. That is a pretty big part, and that is obviously suffering because of commodity prices, because of Europe, etc. If you see the domestic cyclicals, we do think it will be a gradual and uneven kind of recovery because the private sector is still not deleveraged, and a lot of capex in global sectors will be very slow. So given all those things, we think if you again take that 3-year block, it will probably be back-ended rather than front-ended. So we're not of the view that FY16 will be a very strong earnings growth year, but maybe FY17 and 18 can do 18-20%.
What will FY16 do, and which is that positive earnings quarter? Is it third quarter when things will look better than second quarter? Will it be fourth?
So I think FY16 likelihood is low teens somewhere in terms of growth. Which quarter does it exactly turn around? It's difficult to forecast, but I do think that probably H2 will be better because you should see a lot of government spending and the latent demand for capital spending play out in the second half. Okay. So I do think that H2 will be better.
Okay. I was going through your Focus Blue Chip Fund, and the biggest allocation to your fund is to the banking sector, more than 30%. We have IndusInd Bank that will report their numbers today. In general, what are your expectations from the sector this quarter, and between private and PSU, how are you positioned?
So I think the weightage also, because it is a big part of the index, and Focus Blue Chip is a benchmark aware fund. But having said that, we do think that private banks are a great secular play on India, especially if you see a cyclical recovery. And my sense is also that the monetary policy has to ease up as we go forward during the year, because if you see globally, we are probably at one of the few countries with very high real rates. So essentially, you're having a very disinflationary environment globally, and you're having very high real rates which are affecting the manufacturing and infra sector disproportionately. So I think that paradigm cannot go on for too long. I think we need to probably see a much lower real rate, and also because we think inflation will tick down quite materially. So both in terms of the real rate and from the fact that inflation will go down materially, we're very positive that rates will come off.
So you will not go to the extent of PSU banks as well in terms of a positive buy?
So depending on a fund mandate and positioning, we do have exposure to PSU banks. Largely, we're sticking to the top 2 or 3 names. Because I think irrespective of the economic cycle, the mid-cap PSU banks, they do have some structural issues in terms of how they're going to retain CASA, etc. How much do they invest in technology? What is their digital roadmap? So given all these, our sense is that top 2-3 PSU banks are our preference in terms of playing that macroeconomic recovery. So that's how it is.
Okay, how much might Focus Blue Chip give by way of return?
Is that a personal question?
That's a very tough one. As I said,
we are not allowed to buy shares.
We are only allowed to invest in mutual funds, so this is sort of a personal question.
No, so as I said, basically each fund has its own mandate. So Focus Blue Chip is a benchmark aware fund, so it tries to beat Nifty consistently.
Okay, how much will Nifty give? Fine, no personal questions. How much returns can Nifty give in, say, 12 months? I mean, this is a legit question we would ask anyone. We're not trying to put you in a door. 12 months, 24 months.
I don't think you should look at timing the markets too much. I mean, this is a very cliched thing, but time in the markets is more important than timing of the market.
Okay, so if you get asked a cliched question, you give a cliched answer, right? All right, I have to ask you this question. I know you don't talk specific stocks, but one of your top holdings in your Balanced Advantage Fund is Tech Mahindra. Were you surprised with the kind of derating that Tech Mahindra has seen?
I think if you look at the history of technology stocks, I think you need to be ready to ride a lot of volatility because whether it's correct or not, these stocks are measured on a QOQ growth basis. And it can take one client or one contract going here or there for quarterly numbers to be thrown off quite a lot. And unfortunately, what then tends to happen is both EPS and PE go down. So obviously, you see some material impact in terms of stock price. But I think if you think that a company has decent management, and it's a big opportunity space. I mean, the IT services industry is so huge that if you believe in the execution of a particular company from a perspective of management, the verticals they have invested in, the clients they have, then I think you just kind of stick with them for a long period of time. So yeah, I mean, at any point, if you see last 3-4 years, all the large cap IT companies have delivered very disappointing numbers. We saw Infy probably 1 or 2 years back, and every quarter it used to be such a depressing number. But I think they get over these phases and get their act in order a lot of times. So I think you just have to stick with some companies which you like.
Okay. Let me come to the two growth themes. A lot of people tell us that growth will come because government is spending. Do you believe that? And if you do, which kind of stocks should one look at?
So I think for a very broad-based recovery, the government has not enough size to really cause it. In the sense that one thing we have to be also aware that the state government spend more or as much as central government. And they are a very fragmented bunch. At one point, one state is doing well. At another point, some other state is doing well. Even if you look at the increase in capex in the recent budget, it's on the order of 75,000 crores, which is 0.6 or 0.7% of GDP. So if you want to truly drive the gross capital formation forward, of the order of 25 to 30% of GDP, I'm sure that only government cannot do it. But what it tends to do is to kind of crowd in the private sector, because once the government starts spending, the capital goods sector starts doing well, a lot of construction companies start doing well, and some of the troubled NPAs of the banking system get out of the mess. So I think it's a very, very critical part, but honestly, for a very, very broad-based recovery, you will need the private sector to chip in. Which is why I think it's taking some time, because the private sector is very leveraged at this point of time. The animal spirits are still not there because they've got stuck in some bad projects. The global sectors, like steel, are facing some issues. So I think we probably will need the private sector to chip in at some point, which is why also I think that the monetary policy is important.
All right, Manish, that was a very rich conversation. Thank you. By next time, hopefully we'll try and get a year-end target out of you as well on the index. But you have a good day.
Thank you.
Well,